Hello there, it's Gina Gardiner, and I'm so pleased to welcome you to Gina Gardiner and Friends. In this week's episode, I have a wonderful lady, Rhiannon Heins. She's an intuitive channel energy worker, and she's also an author. So welcome, Rhiannon. I'm so excited to be talking about Keepers of the Light Codes, and I know that this is going to be a book that you're going to be publishing very soon. What do you mean by Keeper of the Light Codes? What is that?
Ah, Hi, Gina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored and excited to be here. And yeah, this is my channeled book, which is, as you say, soon to launch on the 1st of October. And it comes to us now as a humanity at a time where we're ready for a greater activation. And a keeper of the light codes is you, it is myself, it is probably a hell of a lot of your listeners. It is someone who is committed to the service of their highest purpose. It is someone who is committed to the service of humanity. And the light codes are basically just that which they hold and embody to walk their path of truth and love and service. So, in order to be a keeper of the light codes, we have to be free from whatever it is that restricts us and prevents us from feeling worthy to live that life. And yeah, so the keeper of the light codes, it's an initiation process. It's an initiation process basically into our highest and brightest truth.
You know, there'll be a lot of people who are listening to this where this resonates, and they are familiar with words like light codes and higher self and so on. And I think there'll be lots of people who will think, well, that's all pink and fluffy stuff. It's something that's a bit woo-woo and it's not for me. But I think if you're listening to this, one of the things I would say to you is we live at a time where there's so much darkness and so much fear and people being constricted by a life that they don't enjoy. I would say to be open to it. Just listen and allow yourself to tune in to the real essence of this. Because if you come from your heart, then things get better. Rhiannon, how did you come to be channeling this stuff? I mean, you can't see if you listen to this, but Rhiannon is, she's, you look very young. I don't know how old you are. You look young, you
Yeah.
look wonderful. How did you get into this?
Thanks, Gina. I'm 31, so
She
I've
looks about
started.
23, let me just say to you. She looks gorgeous.
I think it's a good lighting. It's a good lighting. um, so yeah, I definitely wouldn't say in all of my adult life I've identified as being a channel or even intuitive or even connected. As a child, I felt very odd in my incarnation. As a child, I used to have these moments where I'd be like really confused about who I am. I think, who am I? Who is Rhiannon? Where am I? And I would stay like that for a few minutes and then I would come back. And so as a child, I was like deeply connected to my soul aspect, my true aspect. But then I suppose as most of us experience through high school, I got conditioned and programmed to believe that I should fit the mold of society. I should get a well-paying job. I should get married and I should have children and get a nice house and that would be it. And so I followed that model from a really young age. And from a really young age, I was like I felt suffocated from life. Like when I was 18, 19, 20, I felt suffocated. I had a fiance really young. I had a house really young. I was doing it all, ticking all the boxes because I've always been a bit of a good girl, wanting to do the right thing. So I was ticking all those boxes and my hands would just shake. I would tremble. And I used to say, there must be more to life than this. And this was what I would say over and over. And I would cry and I would cry. And I think I just had to go through this very short period of initiation, which was deep disconnection and unhappiness. And then spirit, the divine, I feel, saw me in my suffering, was like, okay, it's time for her to remember. And then I was broken open at a rapid pace. And when I say broken open, it was like I was I was guided to do things that allowed me to feel again. So I started to do yoga, and I was always would cry in Shavasana. I started to do these like women's sister circles, and I would always cry. And I started to find more and more joy and more and more joy. And so by the time I was in my early 20s, I was doing life in a way that felt really good. Had a job that I enjoyed, and I had a relationship that I enjoyed, and I started to feel an expansion in my body. I started to feel a freedom in my energy. And then from there, I wanted to explore mysticism. I wanted to explore magic. And like, I was really drawn to magical shops, with tarot cards. And I got I got a deck of tarot cards, and I tried to study the tarot and just would not retain the information. It was like I was trying to do tarot readings for myself, and I just couldn't remember what the cards meant. And I've always had quite a strong ability to be able to master my mind and my thoughts, and my mind has never been very busy. And I noticed as I was doing at the tarot that something was telling me what each card meant. There was like an inner voice, and it sounded like it sounded like a thought, but it was clear and it felt true, and I started to listen. And then I accepted that I didn't need the book. And then I started to do this for my friends, where I'd just do the tarot and close my eyes and wait to hear what will come through. And then I started to accept that as truth. And that was the breakthrough, is when I accepted what was coming through my heart as truth. Then the higher mind via my heart started to come through really, really strong. And then I started to write. And then the more my own energy improved, the more my vibration lifted, the more profound and impactful the messages of what was coming through were. So I went from doing tarot readings about what were kind of quite trivial issues at the time, to channeling these messages that were intended for humanity and felt really galactic in nature. So now I identify with this idea that I'm a channel, but only because I know that we all are channels. And I've just been able to spend some time to cultivate that. And yeah, here I am now, 2021. I spent that year writing the book, because I was finding every time I sat down to write, it was flowing on from the last sitting. Yeah.
That's amazing. There are many people who feel they don't belong as children, that they feel on the outside. And I've written a series of intentional journals and workbooks for people who are empaths. And not all empaths recognize that they can channel. They're not all, they don't all exercise that empathy in a very particular way. People who are very sensitive to the energy of other people, they walk into the room and they can sense that somebody's unhappy. That's somebody who has empathy and is an empath. And I've worked with a lot of people who are intuitive and who are empaths, and many of them have had really troubled starts in life, partly because they felt so much on the inside. So if you're listening to this, go and explore some of the books that I have on Amazon. And one of them is, the title is, Are You an Empath? And it will help you remember yourself and how you're operating, and perhaps give you a way through to you opening up in a very different way. Keepers of the Light Codes. And although that's the title of Rhiannon's upcoming book, it's also a topic I think that we all need to be aware of, how we can be a beacon of light to other people, how we can make a difference in the world. And for me, I think it all starts with having a really solid sense of self-worth. I'd be really interested in your take on that.
It's actually so fitting, the idea of self-worth, for what it is that is channeled through in the Keepers of the Light Code. So each initiation within the Keepers of the Light Codes is peeling back a layer of resistance to the idea that we are already whole, complete, in our absolute mastery. So throughout our spiritual journey, or our journey of personal development, a lot of this is about becoming someone more. And this even happens in our spiritual journey. I want to become more ascended. I want to become more whole, I want to raise into another dimension. And all of these ideas make whoever you are now not enough, not whole, not divine, right? And the truth is, we're not operating in linear time. All the potential versions of us exist now. And depending on our perception of ourselves, we can access higher states of who we are if we allow ourselves to dissolve our resistance to that. So, self-worth to me is about understanding that who you are now is a choice in your own perception of self, the own way you allow yourself to recognize your mastery. And if you can see yourself as the divine, as an aspect of God incarnated in this physical vessel, then what is there to doubt in your worth? You are creation in its pure form. And to me, self-worth is more than loving just different aspects of yourself. Every aspect of you is the divine in incarnated form. So when we realize that, it's impossible to not be absolutely in love with ourselves. It's impossible to not be as in love with ourselves as we are the divine, as we are an innocent child, as we are the most perfect flower, because we're all aspects of the Creator. So the Keepers of the Light Codes is a series of initiations that one at a time peel back the resistance that we have to that notion. So the introduction reminds us we're done. We are it. We are all there'll ever be. And then if we can engage with life as that, how do we serve the world?
You know, there'll be lots of people out here listening to this who, as I say, this will feel very normal to them. This is a conversation that they will have had with their friends and the groups that they belong to. But I think if you're listening to this and this feels unfamiliar to you, I would say to you, if you think about your relationship with yourself, think about how you view yourself. Do you use the same criteria for yourself to measure your success, for example, as you do other people? Or are you harder on yourself? Do you have that negative voice in your head saying, should have done this, shouldn't have done that, you're not good enough, oh, imposter syndrome? Because all of those are forms of resistance. And ultimately, recognizing that you are whole is really important. Now, because you're whole and you're not broken, does that mean there aren't areas for development? No, it doesn't. It's my belief that we are all, if you like, card-carrying students of life, and our life is here to teach us. And so when you start to create that loving relationship, loving, not indulgent relationship with yourself, you treat yourself as you would a really valued friend. And whether you resonate with the spiritual aspect of this, or you just see it as recognizing your worth, taking radical responsibility. And those of you listening to the show know I talk a lot about taking radical responsibility for who you are and how you turn up day by day. You are, in fact, creating that incredible relationship with yourself. And through that, then you will start to discover that we are all on a spiritual journey wherever we are, and that we can make a difference. And I think one of the other things to say, how important it is that as we discover that in ourselves, how we recognize that having a life of purpose is as much around how we serve others and how we serve the world. And what a different world it would be if everybody came from that place.
Yeah.
So we're going to go for a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to carry on the conversation about how you can make a difference in your own life and a difference in other people by truly owning who you are and by letting go of the resistance to being your best self, and the best self of today being the foundation of your best self tomorrow. So don't go away. Welcome back. So, Rhiannon, what do you see as the major resistance? That, do they come in? Are there certain categories of resistance that people go through, or is it just general resistance? Will people be able to recognise through which resistance they've got in order to be able to access fully your initiations?
So I feel that some of the initiations, a reader might need all of them. But depending on where you're at in your ability to know and love yourself, you might just need one or two, right? So some of these initiations speak to the unloved aspects of the shadow body. So where you haven't dived into maybe some pain or some trauma that you haven't looked at. Some could be the lack of confidence, the lack of worth to actually show up in service to others. Do I actually have anything to offer? There is a whole range of how someone could be in resistance to the idea that they are in fact a master. But I would say the biggest thing that I notice in my clients and in my work is too much attachment to outcome when making a decision that feels intuitively right for the heart now. So what I mean by that is, as you mentioned before the break, like the version of us today is the only version that ever exists. And the heart is guiding us into our highest truth, our absolute purpose, our absolute service, our most divine life. The heart is guiding us there in every moment, but the only moment that exists for the heart is now.
Yeah.
So many people have this moment of inspiration, like, oh, I want to paint. I want to paint. And then the mind kicks in. But in the future, how will you pay your bills as a painter? How will you become an artist and look after your family? And the projection of outcomes in the future stops them from taking action from their heart now. But if they could, if we could lean into trust that the heart knows where it is guiding us, and it's going to be a most spectacular journey beyond our wildest imagination. If we can lean into trust that the heart knows and act on what the heart longs for in every moment without any attachment to outcome, then we're always guided into our service. And what the heart wants might not always be comfortable. It might be us stepping through our fears to maybe speak in public, stepping through our fears to show our art at an exhibition. But if the heart's longing and the fear that comes with it is infused with excitement, curiosity, then you know it's of the heart. You know it's a divine initiation. So yeah, I would say the heart is inability to recognize the heart's longings as a form of guidance is the greatest obstacle that we need to overcome as a humanity.
And I think the thing that gets in the way of that is people being fearful. And fear and love are at opposite ends of the vibrational continuum. But if people are listening to the media, if they're listening to people talking about things that are going wrong and how difficult life is or is going to become, worrying about the past, anxious about the future, then that gets in the way of you being able to access a life living through the other end of the continuum, which is coming from a place of love. And for me, that's not pink and fluffy at all. It's really quite exacting. So I think that's really great. Where can people get hold of you?
So if you head over to my website, which is rhiannonheins.com, then yeah, you can get in contact there. You can check out my energy work practitioner training, and you can register your name and your details to be the first to know when my book releases. Or if you just want, you can just follow me on Instagram, which is Rhiannon Heins.
And to spell Heins so that people know that, because although it sounds like Heins beans, it's not spelt that way.
No, it's not spelled that way. It's Heins.
So Rhiannon Heins. So give them the website again.
So rhiannonheins.com, RhiannonHeins.com.
That's brilliant. So what's the dream for you? You're obviously someone who wants to make and is making a positive difference in the world. What is the dream if you were able to achieve what it is that at the moment that you see as your purpose? What's that?
So I love that question. Thanks, Gina. That gives me a chance to really indulge indulge my dream. Um, so I find that my purpose in one moment, like I cannot plan too far in the future because it changes and I have to just keep honoring the evolution of it. But my family vision is what underpins my future vision. And I have two daughters, age 3 and 1. And I suppose my number one priority is that my daughters don't have to forget for too long who they are, or hopefully maybe not at all. And to me, that comes from living in nature, receiving a schooling that guides them back to their truth. And if I can create a life for my family, my husband and my two children, where we are just doing those things, fulfilling our purpose, surrounded by nature, and not having to rely on a system that I don't feel is necessarily nurturing to authenticity and truth, then that is my ultimate goal.
Sounds great to me. What piece of advice would you give to our listeners today who perhaps all of this is a bit unfamiliar? How would you help them understand?
I would say that we've all incarnated here, 2022, as souls for a reason. And that it is because as souls, we have our own unique skill sets that we can bring to humanity and the earth at this time of great change. And that there's nothing for you to learn or become. You don't need to become, obviously, you're going to be guided to receive some texts and some learnings. But what I mean is, all of the true knowledge that you need to access is there in your soul blueprint, is there in the fabric of who you are. And all you really need to do is stop trying so hard to figure it out. Surrender, let go and let God, and ask for help. Prayer to me is the guiding force of my life, and I always connect and say, keep me on my highest path, show me where I need to be, show me what I need to see. And with that, I can just melt. I can melt and know that every obstacle, every challenge, it's all a necessary initiation. Yeah, so just remember who you are. Remember that you're a soul and you've got it all there. You just need to peel back the layers that have stopped you from remembering that truth.
Thank you. And we also donate free meals based on the numbers of people who listen to the show. So please do listen to the show and encourage other people to listen to the show, because just by listening, you're helping other people. Rhiannon, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's been a great show, and I think for lots of people, they'll be curious. And I would say, if you're listening and this is not familiar territory to you, just be really curious. Rhiannon's book, Keepers of the Light Codes, is published on the 1st of October, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, dip into it, because we all have resistance of one sort or another. And as I say, be open-minded, be curious. For those of you that are interested in moving your self-development journey forward, on Amazon, you will find a wide range of intentional journals designed to help you actually get in tune with your inner voice and to help you develop and grow. And you'll find them on my author page. Just go to Gina Gardiner on Amazon and you'll find a whole range there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next show. I'd love you to contact me. Gina, Gina, at genuinely-u is my email address. That's Gina, Gina, at genuinely-u. Let me know what you think, and if there are themes or questions you've got to ask, then please do contact me. Take care, and thanks again, Rhiannon. We'll see you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.